All right, welcome back to On Second Thought. Let's today talk about date your wife dummies. I'm still dating.
The chase. It's all about the chase.
As a married couple, we ought to date.
Especially naked.
All right, welcome back to our podcast On Second Thought. I'm here with my favorite human being in the entire world.
It's
Hello.
me.
It's you. Thanks so much for being with me today for On Second Thought. You know, I don't think I could do this without you.
On second thought, you could.
No way, I could not.
You preach every week without me.
Yeah, but this is totally different. This is totally different. So here's the thing. Last week, we talked about dating as a single person and kind of finding the love of your life, following the Lord, figuring that out. Oh, that alliterated. I am a Baptist preacher.
You are.
Look at
Good
there.
job.
That was even an accident. I didn't do that on purpose. But all of that. And so something that you should know about me is that I'm still dating.
You are.
I am. I'm still dating.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a married couple,
We should date each other.
yeah, date
It should be important.
your spouse. I probably shouldn't, and Miss Mary Perdue wouldn't be happy if I said this, but I don't know if she even listens to our podcast. So I'm just going to maybe title this one unofficially, Date Your Wife Dummies. Do you think that's allowed?
Date your wife, dummy. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, how simple can it be? So my mom would not approve because
Just because you said dummies?
Yeah, you're
Yes.
not supposed to say those kind of things.
I'm glad she loves me. 'Cause
She
I say things worse than dummy.
She loves you big. Yeah, so when you are dating as a single person, sometimes what happens is you put your best foot forward because you're trying to win the heart of that other person. Specifically guys sometimes. Like, I'm going to win her over. You know, early on, she's kind
The
of like...
chase. It's all about the
Yeah,
chase.
so
Isn't
some
that
guys...
what you've always said?
No, that's not what I've always said. I have said that sometimes guys think it's all about the chase. And what happens is it's like, I'm going to pursue. And then when they catch their prize, this sounds so like barbaric, caveman. But when they finally win her heart, they feel like, well, check that box. Good to go. And then they don't do anything else for the rest of their life to really win her heart or
keep her heart.
pursue her or keep her. And I know it's very generalized. I'm not saying that happens with everyone. But not only do you need to pursue, guys, not only do you need to pursue her when you are dating, you need to win her heart so that you can win her hand. You also need to pursue her and continue to win her heart and keep her heart when you're married. And that means as a married couple, we ought to date. I tell couples in counseling, I give them 4 things to do. And something to do daily, something to do weekly, something to do yearly, and something to do monthly and yearly. Okay, so I just messed that up, but you get it. 4 things. I can't remember if we talked about this on the podcast or not, but if I forgot, somebody else listening to the podcast probably forgot. So I tell couples you should pray daily, date weekly. Now, sometimes those dates when you got little kids are more like, put the kids to bed, let's watch a show. You know, sometimes it's walking around the neighborhood. It doesn't have to be, $100 here, there, and all that kind of stuff. And then you should, every monthly, we talked about marriage meetings, so meet monthly and then go on a vacation together, just the two of you, yearly. So I tell couples to do that. So one of the things that we talk about is dating weekly. What does that look like? Because it's changed throughout our marriage. When we didn't have kids, when we had little kids and a bunch of them, when we had little older kids, and then even bigger kids now.
Well, I think it looks different for every couple, and you need to go back to the beginning and communicate, what does a date look like? Because for some people, it may be we have to leave the kids at home and leave our home.
Yeah.
Leave all the responsibilities. Like maybe the wife is like, I can't unwind or date if we're staying home. So that may be something. Just go to Chick-fil-A. Like some people just go to Chick-fil-A for breakfast, and it can look different. But I think the ultimate point of the dating is to reconnect. Because if the world's pulling you in so many different ways, it's a time to reconnect, and communicate easier together. And then you can go back and feel like you're taking on the world.
Yeah,
together.
I think it's a great point because the craziness of raising kids, the craziness of working jobs, the craziness of the world in general is going to pull you apart. And if you got to pour in, right? Gary Chapman in his book Love Languages talks about the 5 love languages, and he says that you got a love tank, right? You got to fill that love tank. I know it's a little corny to talk about it like that, but how the world is going to drain it out of you. How am I, as a husband, filling your tank? How are you, as a wife, filling my tank? Like, do you feel loved, appreciated, affirmed, those things that you need? And really what happens in relationships sometimes is couples just become glorified roommates. And it's, well, I'll do this, you do that. I'll take care of this, you take care of that. You pay this, I'll pay that. Okay, see you later. And there's not that connection. There's not that intimacy. There's not that relationship that's really growing and developing. That is a dangerous place to be because then you just kind of coexist. You're two ships passing in the night and there are no heart connections whatsoever. You've got to continually build those heart connections.
So how did we prioritize that? I remember we would date when we were in seminary. I would grade papers and you would write papers. And that was a date for us.
A lot of papers in seminary.
We didn't have a lot of money, and so we would just make sure we were doing something together.
And I would say, to your point, you were very low maintenance about that. We didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have to pay a babysitter, but we sure couldn't just go here, there, and everywhere. So like sometimes you would grade papers, or I'd watch a Braves game, or sometimes when the kids were little, we'd put them to bed, and at 8:00 we'd watch Survivor.
But that was on the calendar. So
it was
how
date
you
night.
prioritize it.
Yeah, it was date night.
Night was Thursday for many years. It was Thursday night at 8:00.
And then because what we learned early on was
and there was no DVR, so the babies had to be in the bed
right.
by 8:00.
Put the kids to bed. We're about to have a date.
It
We're
was
going to
our
watch
thing.
Survivor. I would say too, kind of thinking through that, we learned how expensive it is to go on a date with little kids. Because whatever you're spending going to a movie, going to dinner, going for dessert or ice cream, you're going to double that with childcare. Because we have 5 kids. And so you kind of want to pay not just by the hour, but you kind of want to pay additional for each kid. And so it gets much more expensive. You're doubling.
And families, you can do family swap. Like if you want to find a family that has a lot of children, they all go to that family one night, and then you offer to babysit so the other couple.
That's a great idea. I feel like we paid money for babysitting more than we got to swap our kids around. Nobody wanted to watch our kids. We had too many.
Yes, but we're it's great.
I love it. I love having a big family. I think you said something really important. Prioritize it. Schedule it.
Yes. It was on our calendar.
If you don't, what makes you think this is going to happen if you don't plan for it? What's the old quote? Fail to plan. You plan to fail. So that applies in dating as well. And so it doesn't have to be. So some of our best dates right now are just walking.
Yes,
go on walks.
We are officially old.
Okay. Let me go get my walker, and we'll walk around the neighborhood.
But for years, talking about it, we didn't have a lot of money, so we don't really celebrate Valentine's Day. Like, I'm like, please don't spend money.
Even though we're talking about dating in February because it's Valentine's Day.
But one thing we did splurge on every year was for our anniversary. Yeah. We would go to a fancy restaurant.
A really nice restaurant.
Yes, every year. And that was kind of like our big splurge. And we would order all of the... Whatever we wanted. And so that was a true, get dressed up. And we just made sure we did that every year on our anniversary. Yeah. And so those are ways to do it. It doesn't have to be expensive. It's really just showing the effort.
We did kind of make a choice early on in our marriage. Okay, do you want Valentine's to be a big deal, or do you want our anniversary to be a big deal? We kind of had to choose because it wasn't like we could do something big all the time. And of course, Hallmark wants every day to be a huge holiday where you're going to buy cards. And then you're like, I don't want cards on Valentine's Day. I don't want stuff on Valentine's Day. That's just a day on the calendar. But our anniversary, that's our day. And so and look, if you're a husband and wife, you're like, no way, we're doing big stuff for Valentine's Day. Great, do it. That's just our thing, right?
Yeah. It's just for us.
So we would go to places like Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. I don't get to eat there a lot. They got great steak, but the anniversary, boom, Emerald's in Atlanta. We would drive to Atlanta. Oh yeah, it was great. And did we do a Brazilian steakhouse one time?
We did.
You didn't like that as much as I liked it.
It was fun.
It was good, though.
Good.
I liked it. So, think about ways that you can schedule it, prioritize it, and then there'll be special times like your anniversary or those sorts of things. But ultimately, you got to find something that works for you. And what we do may not be exactly right for you, but it's really.
Some people like to go hike and go sleep in a tent together.
You want to do that?
No.
You don't?
I do not.
Okay.
But that's what but that's what the point is. Communicate what your desires are. What do you want your dates to look like? What do you want your vacations to look like? How much will that cost you? Can you save to get to those things every year? And we have not every year gone away together, but at least every 18 months.
Yeah.
And some years we've gone twice just because of different things that have happened. But those are just as important to go have experiences together.
It is harder when your kids are very little to get. And when I say get away, some people think we're talking about a week or two. Sometimes it's just a night. Like, here we go. We're getting away.
Right.
Whatever it is, date your wife, dummy. Right?
Yes.
The unofficial title of we can't put that on the podcast title. I'm looking at our people over here. But like, whatever it is, be intentional about that. Like, if you this is a person you love, you're going to want to develop a relationship with that person. And it doesn't happen by accident. You have to be intentional. Quit being passive. Make it happen. Some of you listen to this, you need to say, doggone it, tonight we are going on a date. And we're going to go get a Crystal hamburger and sit across the table and talk about our relationship. Like, whatever it is, get it done. Like, quit living like glorified roommates and really become the helpmate and the spiritual leader and the person.
Right.
For that person that you've married.
And I will say, I'm going to kind of veer off because we're going to talk about this in
Squirrel.
another podcast. But say you're a wife whose husband doesn't date you and your heart is just sad because of that. So maybe he's not going to take the steps to do that. Why, for a while, flip the script and see if you can initiate something. Like, say, I've put this on the calendar. Can we go have a date? Or, as spicy as you can be, you could actually plan a night in the bedroom. And he would probably enjoy that, and it would be a date.
I love that idea.
But then it gets attention. It's going to get the husband's attention, unless there's some other underlying issue that needs to be discussed differently. But that's going to, why is she doing this? What does she want? Why is she doing? I'm enjoying this. But it kind of flips the script a little bit, and then maybe it opens up the door to say, I would really like for you to plan a night for us.
Yeah.
I planned this night for you. Can you plan something for us? And it may just look different, just to get him flipping his brain a little bit, to start thinking about you again.
That's great, because you probably do have some folks listening, some ladies that are listening that are like, this all sounds well and good, but I don't even know the last time we've been on a date. And right now I don't even know if I want to go on a date with him. I don't know if I want to go on a date with this guy.
Yeah.
We mentioned the Love Dare podcast or two ago. I do think that goes both ways. Like, it is for husbands, it is for wives. And so, I know ultimately God's plan is for the husband to be the leader and take initiative in this, but there are ways the wife can kind of turn the heart of the husband as well. Somebody said one time, like, husband's the head of the home, the wife is the neck. And I'm like, what do you mean? Well, the head turns where the neck turns it. I was like, I've never thought about it like that before. But there's a point, that, you have more influence over your husband than you think. Especially
naked. And y'all can decide if you want to edit that or not. It's February.
It's February. Happy Valentine's Day. But you're absolutely right. And they say that, the physical relationship, yes, it happens in the bedroom for the most part, but you ought to be building that relationship at all times in various places, right? So whether that's doing dishes in the kitchen, or whether that's on a car ride, or whether it's walking around the neighborhood, or whether that's helping clean up or do laundry or whatever it is, those connection points tie some heartstrings that help you develop that relationship that you need with your spouse.
And when you're naturally doing it, like, you can sit down and schedule it. But as our kids have gotten older, we have a lot more freedom to just pick up and leave.
Yeah.
We can go somewhere. I promise they don't stay small forever. You're not living in the endless life of toddlerhood forever.
Right.
There comes a time where you can leave your kids just to go to Chick-fil-A.
Do you remember?
I do.
Do you remember the first time?
I do.
We were like, kids, we're going to leave you. We will be back in 1 hour.
Yes.
And we left.
We did, and we didn't have to pay a babysitter. All we had to pay for was dinner.
And we went
Glorious.
to dinner.
Yes.
We came back, and like the house wasn't on fire.
Yes.
They were alive. The dogs weren't dead. Like, it was, I was like, this is great. You know, it felt like a completely different stage and phase for us.
Yes. So once we crossed over, I felt like dating becomes a little bit
That's easier. A good way to, we have crossed over.
Yes, the great divide.
Yes. Egypt is behind us. We are through the Jordan into the promised land. We have crossed over.
We have crossed over. And so that frees you up a little bit.
It does. It doesn't mean like we just went on a trip, and it's still complicated sometimes if you're on a trip or things like that. Figure out how to handle those things. But for an hour here or there, for now, of course, we got 4 teenagers, you know, so several hours. But I do remember that moment. I just was like, we were even like trying to talk about a relationship or just spending time with each other. Like, wait, what do you think they're doing? Do you think they're okay? And we said, here's how you, I think, did we still have a landline then? Like, you can call us right here. This is a phone that hooks to the wall. You can call our cell number if you need us, but don't call us unless you need us.
Yes. Well, and for people that are having babies, a lot of babies at one time, it looks different.
It does.
For sure. You're exhausted, and sometimes I may have looked at you and said, the best thing you can give me right now is to not make me go somewhere.
That's right.
And just let me sleep in. Or sleep, period.
Mm-hmm.
But a part of that comes from being able to communicate again.
I think that's huge, because if a husband comes to a wife and says, hey, I've planned a nice night out, and she says, hey, the best thing for me right now is just to
I haven't
rest.
had a bath in 2 days.
I mean,
my hair.
And so if you don't have a good communication or a good relationship, that could really cause conflict almost immediately. Mm-hmm. But one of the things I think we probably need to do a podcast on this is like, believe the best about your spouse. You know, so instead of always running to the worst case scenario, like, I can't believe I planned this night and you don't even care because all you want is just to slip or whatever. Okay, wait a second, just back up. Like, believe the best about your spouse. And if my job is to love you like Christ loved the church, if I really want to serve you in that way, then I want to do what I can that actually meets your needs, instead of making you get all dressed up and putting the makeup on and get the hair done and, you know, go to a dinner where you're like, I just want to be asleep. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, even something simple yesterday, you know, you were like, hey, can you do this for me? Has your day been crazy? I was like, crazy. I don't know how many crazies I put on the text. And you're like, no, never mind. I was like, no, I didn't tell you that so you would not like want me to help you. I was just saying it was a crazy day. I want to help you.
Yeah.
You know, because I know how much you love asking for help. You don't do that a whole lot. you don't do that a whole lot at all. More. The funny thing is, like, more often than not, if you need help, you're only going to tell me the things you're about to do, and you won't say, "Can you help me?" You're just like, "Okay, I got to do this, and I got to do that, and I got to this taken care of." Da, da, da. That's your way of being like, "What are you going to do to help me here?"
Or it's get out my way. Let me do all my things. Just let me do my things. I can't talk to anybody until I do all my things.
You do like help from time to time.
Yes, I feel like I ask for it if I need it.
You do. So. Sometimes it's more of a, she needs help. She doesn't think she does, but I'm going to help her anyway.
Yes. Well.
You just got to receive that help, girl.
Mm-hmm. All right. We digressed.
So we did something pretty cool when we were in Millington at Crosspoint Baptist Church. And we talked, we kind of did a date night thing there.
Yes. We had adopted it from
we stole it
somewhere. We stole it somewhere.
We believe the Bible. There's nothing new under the sun.
Yes,
so we stole it from somebody.
But it was really fun. We taught a marriage class, so this was one of their...
You tell the story. You remember this even better than I do.
We taught a marriage class when we were in Tennessee, and we would give them challenges every week. And so this was one of the challenges. It was called The Great Date, and they had to, for this class, they had to plan a date within the next 7 days before our class met. And they had to plan a date, and we gave them questions that they had to ask each other, they had to answer, and different activities that they had to do.
On the date.
it was just a way to reconnect. But it also, for people that had not gone on a date in quite a long time, they actually had something to talk about. It gave them something to talk about, or at least opened the door. Like, these are the things you have to do. So maybe, and then we did that a few times. We gave several different challenges, but this was one of them. So I think Hannah is going to
give us a couple examples. And yes, Hannah will make sure that secondfamily.church/thoughts, there'll be a link where you can click. There'll be a PDF or something like that.
Yeah.
So those of you listening to this podcast right now, in the next 7 days, date your wife, dummy.
Go on a date. I don't want to tell all of it because it's kind of a surprise. Because you
don't tell all of it, but you could.
So you kind of take it, you print it out, and you put it in an envelope. Try not to read it before you go on the date.
Cheaters, they're going to read it.
Yeah, try not to read it.
Don't be a cheater.
Just print it out, say we're going on a date, and put it in an envelope. And so I'm going to just give you a couple of them. One was, this is my favorite. So everybody can think about it because you're going to have to answer this one. What was your favorite thing for us to do when we were newlyweds outside of the bedroom? That's one.
And you talk about it.
And then, so then some are would you rather questions. Would you rather do this or this? And at the end, it gets a little more serious. Like, what part of our marriage do you think God makes God the happiest? So that's just kind of sprinkling it out. It's fun, but also takes it back to your marriage and how you can be intentional. And at the end,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's just ask. I look at you and say, wow, because. So you fill in these questions like looking at one another. So anyway.
Stare into my eyes.
Yes. And
you love that part.
Yeah, that was very difficult, but I did it with you. And just for, one of the other activities is to take a picture of yourself on the date. And some people don't take pictures very often. So that may be just like a core memory, as they say these days.
Core memory.
Yes.
I think one of the things that's neat about that is it just gets couples talking. Because life gets busy, pressures abound, problems arise, the world can just
bitterness resides, resentment,
all those things. And so if you're not careful, you're not talking. If you're not talking, you're not growing. Yeah. I said before, communication is the breath of your relationship. You don't communicate, you suffocate. And there's some.
Put your picture beside it. Put it on Twitter.
I think that ultimately, there's some relationships that are starving for some of that air, that communication. And somebody's listening to this right now, and you just need to humble yourself and take on that responsibility and make it happen. You have no idea how something that simple could really change your entire relationship. It can make a difference.
I mean, and we had, right when we moved to Tennessee, you had a couple come up to you. They've been married.
Wow.
Quite a while.
Yeah.
And I mean, quite a while, like 30 years, quite a while. And she had an apartment and she was moving out.
Yeah, like she whispered in your ear.
Yes.
We were there the weekend to meet. He was a deacon. So we were meeting the deacons and meeting some key leaders. Yeah. And she pulled you aside and whispered in your ear. And I was like, what did she tell you? She said, you said to me.
Yeah.
She said, I just wanted you to know that I've got an apartment and I'm leaving my husband. It was that weekend or something, right? And
when we moved there, she stopped me. I guess she had an apartment. Anyway.
Because in that moment you told her.
Yeah, I told her I wanted her to go home and renew her love for her husband. I wanted her to remember why she fell in love with him. I asked her if she had old letters, maybe they had written each other or things, communication cards, to go back and reread those to try and renew her love for her husband, no matter what had happened. What had happened? I just did it. I mean, that was the only advice I could give her.
Yeah, because we were coming back.
I had no idea who she was.
We weren't even there yet. We were coming back to Georgia and then going there in several weeks. And by the time we got there several weeks later, they had separated.
But that was the only advice I could give her, and that's the advice I would give somebody now that's fallen out of love.
I want to tell the rest of that story.
Yeah, I think you should.
I got to tell the rest of that story.
I didn't have. That was all I had. So Jim has the rest of the story.
This story is so amazing. This is a God story because, you had told her that this guy was a deacon, so he had to step away for a while. And I just said, hey, if you two are willing to work on your marriage, let's talk.
Yeah.
And we started coming, and it was hard.
They started out on opposite ends of the couch.
Oh yeah, it was really, and we met for a while, but they reconciled, and he became a deacon again. And before we left Tennessee, I got to do a vow renewal for them on a big anniversary. Like I got tears in my eyes thinking about how cool that is.
And they send you stuff. They send me stuff every now and then.
Yeah.
That
you just never know. You never know what you're missing out on if you don't follow God's plan for marriage. But you also don't know what you could have if you embrace that. You may say, well, that won't happen for us. And I'm not saying every story ends like that. But I know a God who can work miracles.
Yeah.
And
well, if he has the power to save us, he has the power, then he can fix your marriage. And
absolutely.
Sometimes it just takes being willing to work. And
that's a key. Hey, we talked about this last week. Did you guys do this? And far too many times couples are going to say, no, we didn't do that. And I'm like, well, why are we, you're wasting my time. Why are we meeting? Because I've given you some things to do to make your marriage better. And all you want to do is come in here and complain. That's not going to help.
Well, and it's okay. You say that people come to you. It's okay to have a counselor or another person in the room. Maybe you can talk at that person that you're really talking to your spouse, but it would be much harder to say spouse to spouse. So it's okay. Go to a counselor and talk through it. Like, it's better to go to a counselor before you're at the end of your rope, or before you've slipped into somebody's DMs, or before you've done it. Like, it's much better on the front end to say, like, I'm not completely happy. I'm not miserable, and I'm not looking for anything, but I want more.
There's some things we need to fix.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell some couples when we talk about dating and when we talk about meeting and communicating about your relationship, it's just the regular maintenance. It's stuff you've got to have if you don't want to have the engine blow up down the road. And a lot of people do not get to the counselor stage until the engine's on fire, the car's upside down, looks like James Bond just drove it through a brick wall, and everything's just bad. So I think a lot can be helped with open and honest communication. Husband's taking that initiative, right? And if the husband won't take the initiative, the wife can take the initiative in some areas and hopefully jumpstart some things. And then knowing that God has a plan for you to have an incredible marriage. It's out there. But you got to date your wife, dummy.
Yes. Be present.
Absolutely. What else do we need to add?
That's all. Just they have a challenge to go on a date.
7 days from listening to this podcast.
Yes.
Go on a date.
It could be next year.
It could be 2040. I don't care. Go on a date and check out secondfamily.church/thoughts. And so you tell me again, you want them to print those, but put them in an envelope.
And then open them on the date.
Don't read it ahead of time.
Yes. Whew. Especially ladies, because I'm sure y'all going to be the ones printing it out.
It was hard for you not to read it ahead of time, wasn't it?
Well, I think we gave them out already in the envelope.
Oh, that's right.
We gave them out in the envelope.
So now you got to go on the web and print them, but you can't look at them.
Yes.
And then put them in an envelope.
And then have a fun night.
All right.
Enjoy it.
Well, let's do some rapid fire questions.
Okay,
here we go. Miss Hannah's got some rapid fire questions.
Yes. What did y'all do on your first date?
The very first time
what do we
very first time we hung out, we just
was at your house.
Sat on the couch, talked, and walked.
Yes. The first date I think you planned out was when the very first time I went to North Carolina. And we went to Duke Gardens or whatever. That was our first. Or Sonny's.
Yeah.
We went
Sonny's has a really it has a deep tie to our love right?
So because you left you flew back and then anyway. So either Sonny's or Duke Gardens.
Duke Gardens, which is in North Carolina.
Depends on where we were.
That's in North Carolina.
Our first date.
In Duke, Durham.
Mm-hmm.
How did you propose to Stephanie?
It was way too long.
Oh, what are you talking about?
Waited too long.
She told me I had until a certain date, and I gave her multiple days before that certain date to ask her to marry me.
All right, so we went and ate lunch at Sonny's.
We did.
And then we went.
So my family had some land with a really beautiful scene and pond and everything. Did we? It wasn't a picnic. I was thinking we'd do a picnic
we went
thing.
To Sonny's.
We just went to Sonny's, and then
you said, "I want to show you this."
I want to show you this because I had never taken you out there before. Right. It was beautiful, and And so I had the ring in my pocket. I was super nervous. I had the ring in my pocket, and I had rehearsed what I was going to say, and I was doing great. And then I hugged her and got down on one knee. And later she told me, she's like, when you hugged me, I knew because I felt your heart racing. Like she could feel my heart going. Dun, dun, dun,
See,
dun, dun,
shouldn't
dun.
have hugged me.
So
I was like, oh my gosh.
yeah, you're like, oh, it's really about to happen. So
Yes.
and so we were there, lake kind of right there, woods, and
We didn't even have a photographer, and we
No.
didn't have a videographer. I mean, we
it
are
happened
because
we're
behind.
here, but
Yes.
and then I gave her the ring and asked her to marry me. It was a really simple proposal, though. It wasn't like, I didn't have a big speech. It was like, I love you. I think God, you're the one God has for me.
Oh, that was the other thing. I knew whoever I was supposed to marry would be able to pick out my ring without me looking at it. And you did.
And that you say it's not specific at all. Wow.
All right, next question.
If you could plan a vacation for just the two of you, where would it be?
I'm gonna let you answer this one first because you love to travel.
I do. So, like, if I didn't have anything, I would really want to go on that 52-day cruise from like
Ooh.
Australia to London or something.
Which is interesting because you're not a big fan
I'm
of cruises.
not, but that one is like
Stephanie doesn't
gets
like
them
cruises
all.
because she's like, if I got to get home, I can't turn this boat around.
That's
like there's a little bit of
Yes.
you have some control issues.
I do.
We're gonna okay, but
Hi, my name is Stephanie. I have control issues.
I'm
Yes.
proud of you. That's a great first step. Okay, the 52-day cruise. Wow.
But the other one would be the Mediterranean, which is probably what you thought I was going to say.
No.
Yeah.
We had such a great time when we went to Israel in 2018. I'd love to go back there. I don't know. I'd go anywhere with you.
That's what you always say.
I'd go to the Houston County dump.
Ooh.
Let's go.
Okay, a couple of weeks ago, you guys recommended The Love Dare as a book for couples to read. What other books would you recommend for married couples?
So, there are several that I will have people read as they're preparing for marriage. And then, you can really kind of read a marriage book preparing for marriage or as you're married. So if you're married and you've yet to read the 5 love languages, I felt like that gave us another way to communicate about our marriage, about who we are, personalities.
A lot of people like that book. It was about respect. It came out
Love and
one day.
Respect by
Love and
Emerson
Respect,
Eggerichs,
yes.
Eggerichs or something like that.
Yes.
And then this Momentary Marriage is a good one. I think Keller has a book just called Marriage that's pretty good. And then there are some that get a little bit more like if you're married. So the premarital books are more about marriage, but then there are some books on marriage, love, and sex that I think are great for married couples. So I do not.
His needs, her needs.
That's a good one, but I don't demand or prescribe the premarital counseling any books that have even chapters on that.
Yes.
But when you're married, there's some really, really good ones. So His Needs, Her Needs is a
Sheet music
very
as
good
well.
one. Sheet Music is a very good one. You read that and I read that. So we kind of read that together. So I don't know. I've got a whole shelf in my library of books on marriage that I could recommend, but those are just a few that come to mind.
Okay, what is y'all's current go-to date night?
Walking.
Walk around a circle
We do.
right behind our house.
Right now. But then sometimes like I want to go somewhere. Like, let's just go somewhere.
And right now, there's this little place in town, and she loves their egg drop soup. And so it could be something as simple as just take me there. And she loves their egg drop soup. Or, if you're counting macros and all that kind of stuff, you got to figure all of it out. But, Chick-fil-A is always a winner for you.
I feel like dating for us right now is interesting because we connect, so we can connect. We have time to connect, so we don't have to plan a date as much anymore because our kids are older. So we have time to connect, whereas other people with smaller kids don't.
Well, there's literally been times where I'm like, hey, I want to take you out. Let's go do this. And you're like, nah, I don't want to. I mean, turn me down.
I didn't turn you down.
Turn me down. You don't want to date. But let me say, we communicate at a very high level consistently.
Right. So it makes that a little bit.
So the date thing, like for you to say, I don't really want to do that. It's not like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I asked her on a date and she didn't want to go. Like, it's just more like, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? I mean, we had something like that last week. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this for your birthday. And you're like, and you thought you were going to hurt my feelings, but I'd rather know if it's something you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And so I'd rather know, I don't want to do that. Then you say
that sounded more like a burden.
Yeah, well, then you just say like oh yeah, sure, I'll do that, and then you'd be like, I don't know why I'm here.
Yeah.
So we're
not fancy. We're very simple.
We are
people.
simple.
But
we're
some
simple.
women really want their husbands to plan out this long, like plan the babysitter, because she doesn't have to plan the babysitter, plan all the things.
If you're local, I love Props. The restaurant Props is great. We've gone there.
Yeah.
I've heard there are a couple of really nice ones in Perry now.
If
Orleans,
the financial
Oliver
part
Perry's.
is expensive,
It is.
then ask for, like for Christmas, ask for gift cards to different restaurants.
Or go give plasma.
Or
there you go. Go give some plasma and then go eat a steak. It's like this wonderful cycle. I don't know.
I mean, there are
Figure
ways
it
to
out.
do that. You can plan out, I want to go on a certain amount of dates this year. Ask for those gift cards for Christmas or that kind of thing. So, anyway, those are just ideas.
I think that's the end of our rapid fire questions today. If you guys have any questions or you have some thoughts, you can go to secondfamily.church/thoughts. You can ask some questions there. We'd love to help answer those questions. You'll find some resources there that we talked about in our podcast. And as always, one thing that I don't ask you to do a lot, but it does help other people go listen when you rate our podcast or give us a shout out. And so many of you have been so good about that. We're not trying to grow a huge platform. We just want to be a blessing. And so if we've been a blessing to you, share it with somebody else. And we all know Stephanie's a superstar anyway. So thanks so much for joining us today. I see that look. Thanks so much for joining us today for the podcast on Second Thought. We'll catch you next week.